Hello everyone, my name is Pilkle Milk, and today I'm going to be fixing one of these three figures. Their issue is that they're really stiff. All of them are stiff in their own strange, quirky way, but let me run them down real quick. These two is Baki Hanuma, Yujiro Hanuma. Both of them are from Storm Collectibles, specifically the product line of Storm Arena. I'm not sure if that's a different thing, like product line sorts, but point being is that both of them are from Storm Arena. This one specifically, if you watch my previous video, I added lubricant right there on this little ball peg on its leg because it was kind of stiff, and well, it doesn't creak anymore, and it's a lot easier to move, which is great. Now for this one, Yujiro Hanma, although I did use the hair dryer previously when it did have a problem for me, in the video itself I did not turn on the hair dryer simply because the problem was already fixed, which is a bit unfortunate for the video side, but hopefully going through the notions of how it should be done and what you should be looking for is good for you users. Unfortunately, there hasn't been any other people who's posted the hair dryer, like using a hair dryer to blow it. Although on Reddit, you could look up some people who did use it, but only have like text-based, things. Anyways, point being is that I showed it off. Hopefully, those work for a lot of people. But again, note that a lot of these fixes, specifically the lubricant, I already forgot. The lubricant, the hair dryer, and even for this case, the water method, the warm water method, these tricks are not 100%, which is unfortunate. But it is one of the three. Now you have three options to pick from, if there would be the case of your figures being really stiff. Same goes for loose figures and even broken figures. But yeah, for today's to-do list, I'm gonna be messing around with Manticora. Now this one specifically, it's infamous for being extremely stiff and hard to move, which when it comes to a figure collector who actually uses the figure a lot, like moves it a lot, or someone who poses it a lot for images or pictures, this is a really good thing, mainly because a stiff figure means it'll last even longer. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's really hard to move and something could snap. Now, when it comes to my Manticora, again, unfortunately, I did fix it using my own method. I used the water method specifically for these hand pieces, which on the website, I have a video up from Steven's toy review, who did show off the exact thing that I did, which is using hot water to run through right here in this little hand piece. Well, they used an Ultraman, I think. I don't know who that is, but they used a different figure. They ran warm water through this little hand peg right here to loosen up this piece and its hand, which is perfect for exactly like any other of a similar type of issue, which all that yappa meal that I just gave you pretty much just means that I'm doing the same thing, only with a different area. Now for the hands specifically, although I did use it for the hands, I used it mainly for not the ball peg in question like they did in the video, but instead just the hands, to expand the little socket in there. Now for today's fix, I'm gonna be using warm water, but in reality I am not going to be using water at all, simply because there's a bunch of electronics nearby, which is a big issue, a big safety concern, so I'm not going to be messing around with that. Sorry, it's dough. Anyways, since I have a bunch of electronics, I did want to use water to showcase it a lot better, but unfortunately it's a bit of a safety concern right here in my little area of work. But yeah, now the idea is pretty much very similar to how you saw it on the website, which is just straight up make sure you give whatever figure you have a dip of water and let it sit there for a while. Now, as you can tell already with Manticora itself, it's bigger than the bowl I have, which it's either an issue for you who have either an even smaller bowl or the same size bowl or even a bigger bowl. Now, the point of this fix, let's just say, the most infamous place that this guy has an issue is this ball joint right here on the shoulder. I'm pretty sure I also showed it on the website, but just to tell you now, Manticora is infamous for being extremely stiff, specifically to remove the pieces that it can be swapped out with. Sorry that you only saw my hand. But this piece right here, and I guess this one as well, this other side, these parts are impossible to pull out, to swap out with the damaged arm that it comes with. Another piece that's extremely stiff for it to come out is its forearms. Now, although it's kind of hard to see it being black on black, let me see if I can find my paper towel real quick. Yeah, it being black on black, but the piece, maybe you can see a little hinge, or yeah, the little hinge joint right here. It's really hard to see, but yeah, there's a little hinge joint right there, and that piece is connected to a ball joint. So think of it like the hinge point is my finger, my index is right here, and then there's a ball joint right here. Now that part is also extremely hard to take off and swap, which again is an issue, which, as you can quickly tell, a lot of the issues are from the waist up. So when it comes to using the warm water, the best thing to do is to have the area of issues inside the water. Now, since there's no issue with the legs or even the toe pieces right here that can move, it's only just the shoulder and the forearm. Dipping only the shoulder and forearm is perfect for this fix. Now, when it comes to the question of how hot the water is, since I didn't use a thermometer, and I really doubt a lot of people are going to be pulling out a thermometer to check how hot the water is, just kind of eyeball it. If it's steaming, it's hot enough that you could just throw something in there, kind of forget about it. Now, what I mean about forgetting about it is for how long you're going to have this figure in here. Now, in the case of how I did it the first time for this figure, as you can see, the head is also one of the pieces, the head and neck is also one of the pieces that's going to be submerged underwater, which, since there wasn't an issue with those pieces, it's also going to be having the effect of it expanding inside the water, making it even easier to pull out any joint. In this case, the head piece for the Manticora is pretty easy to take off. It's so easy that I flew away from my hands. Sorry. Awkward camera angle and awkward pulling. But yeah, the thing is that the head is pretty easy to take off. It doesn't really matter. Another thing you should worry about when it comes to other figures is that there might be some pieces that are more easy to heat up and maybe snap or warp. For this case, these little pincers that Manticora has are really easy to warp in high heat. So, issues like this are something that you should be taking care of, or making sure it doesn't become a critical issue, let's say, for the lack of better words. But yeah, as it's submerged, you leave it there until the warm water or steaming water that you have becomes room temperature, maybe after 20 minutes, half hour, or even a whole hour. After it's heat up, you check if it's a lot stiff, if it's equally as stiff or even looser. But if it doesn't work, you heat up the water again, you place it back in, and just to make sure everything is working and the hot water is actually reaching everywhere it's supposed to be, you could just twist and turn it a bit underneath the water, letting all the warm water seep into the cracks that it wasn't able to when you didn't move it. And yeah, from that, slowly it's going to become looser and looser the more attempts you try, depending how stubborn the figure is. In this case, this Manticora is extremely stubborn, so I've used all 3 methods that are on the website to fix specifically this guy, which is a bit of a hassle, but hey, as I mentioned at the very start of the video, all these fixes are not 100%, but they are options for you to try, which is already great enough, since none of these are going to lead to permanent issues unless you're reckless, which hopefully you're not. But yeah, thank you for watching.